Hello, welcome to Kitfox Draw and Lore episode 11. I think I stopped saying the inaugural one, so I suppose that means they're real now. First of all, just to check to see if everything's working, because I tried to set this up again on my own without G's help. Everything went wrong, so we'll just see if things are going okay. Sound-wise, sound okay. I managed to unplug the camera while I was trying to plug the tablet in, which meant that everything got screwed up and the mouse disconnected itself and all sorts of crazy stuff. But I think it should be okay now, unless the sound's also messed up. But we'll see how it goes. And because of all that, and the fact that I just checked the tablet a second ago because I was kind of busy finishing off the next page of the comic, so I left it a little bit late, as is my usual MO to get everything sorted out. So because of that, I didn't leave myself enough time to get things ready. And I found out about 1 minute ago that the tablet that I normally would use doesn't work because I guess the drivers for this little tablet, which this is the one I've got that I used to use at school with the students, maybe the drivers of that have overridden the other one for some reason. So I'm going to be using that little one today. So if the drawing's a little bit, if I'm going all crazy over the screen, it's because I'm used to a much bigger tablet than this little microscopic one that I'm using now. But it's okay. We'll make do. This is what I started using. This kind of thing is what I originally started drawing on, and it actually takes quite a lot of effort to get me to stop using something while I'm reusing it and upgrade to the next thing. So it won't take me long to remember how that goes. But because I only had like a minute to prepare, I didn't do much of a pre-drawing thing. But this is, as I think I might have mentioned once on the Patreon or somewhere, I've kind of, for some reason, gotten sort of big into Undertale. Yeah, like about 8 years after the fact. So I missed the boat on that one a little bit, but retroactively, pretty good stuff. And I'm pretty into it. So this is just Kit as the human, I guess, from Undertale. So it's something I could draw in like 1 second. So what are we doing? Mordak, hello, good. Yep, sounds good, excellent, sounds good. Oh no, what? What, gee? Oh dear. Oh, right, okay, you come, right. I want to fix that, they suck. We'll see how it goes. At least then I can blame the tablet if everything I do is terrible. I was thinking Undertale Human Face. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Oh, there's Toby Fox, pretty incredible composer, story writer. Just like the designs, even though I know he didn't do a lot of designs, but like they're so iconic and so simple. Like I don't understand. It's such a amazing skill to be able to bring to bear. Anyway, yes, once again, welcome, and I've got some Mordak questions as well. We should call the whole thing the Mordak Minute because he sort of a plus applies most of the questions. So I'll sort of get into those, and I'll be drawing some suggestos. So I'll probably actually draw the one that it's almost a meme at this point that I've never actually finished doing it, but the Omega's request of Sobek as Calypso and Johan as Beerus, I think it was. But yeah, I say I'm going to do it, and then I don't do it, and I half did it last time, and then so I might actually do it now. So have a think about what else you might want me to do. I've got a couple of other plans of other little things I wouldn't mind doing if we run out of stuff. And I'll start doing some questions. Mina plush arrived yesterday. Oh yeah, so Mina the Hollower. Cute little sort of pixel game. I guess that's not completely a side note since we were just talking about another pixelish sort of game. Cool. Yeah, that'd be pretty cute, I would imagine. I didn't even know they were around. All right. So let's go. Let me just go to Patreon and get my questions here. So firstly, so again, for anyone who this is their first one, for some reason they've made it this far through the rambling. So basically I'm going to be answering some questions about my comic and other things, because especially now when things are starting to get a bit complicated, maybe some things that are left open or just unclear in the comics. So it's a good place to kind of just, and I already have too much text as it is. So I need to have a place to kind of expand on stuff that doesn't really fit into the comic itself. It isn't that important to like the plot or anything, but like, you know, it's good to have things sorted out as much as possible so that things kind of make sense and you can kind of expect to know where things are going with how the technology and all that kind of stuff works. So, first of all, when did Sage start working with the raccoons? Was this only shortly before recent events, or was it for many months while Marvel was still growing up? So, yeah, that was never really explained. It kind of just jumped to like a year later, and he was just working with them. So, let me just turn off the human and get some other references up. Okay, so I have drawn the Calypso one before already. Oh no. Oh, no. I used to be able to press this button to make the size of the pen go bigger and smaller, but I guess that doesn't work anymore. All right, so I guess I'll have to manually change the size of this pen. Oh God. Oh jeez. Or I could just draw bigger. Yeah, that works. Let me zoom out a bit. Okay, so let's see. Sovek. This line's way too thick. Where's the pen stuff? Tools. Okay, no, this is not the inaugural. This is another inaugural episode. We haven't quite gotten there yet. I cannot do anything. Where is the tools stuff? Window, tools, option. There we go. All right. That's it. Okay. Yeah, I reckon that he would have tried a lot of other things besides kind of working on, sort of working with the raccoon. That probably would have been like a very last ditch effort. Probably would have been doing some other things. But in typical sort of like lab rat style, they always take a really long time to actually kind of get around to everything. Oh, geez, right. This tablet is rubbish. Oh, man. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be. I'll probably be doing a lot of like erasing and stuff like that. So generally, really bigger chin than that. I'll get used to it. Normally, I give myself a few minutes to kind of get back used to this computer and everything, but I'll figure it out. So yeah, so the lab rats like famously take forever to like decide anything and do anything. So he probably would have been like procrastinating about it for quite a while, kind of how he was actually going to get Marble back. Because I guess originally he would have immediately in the comic it says that he um, let's see, got a big afro going on, that he requested the use of one of the, or he went to get one of the like the rat power suits to allow him to sort of go and chase after Tourmaline and not be kind of in too much danger, because the lab rats don't like that as all the other rats do as well. Not like being in danger, but yeah. So he got the mech suit and managed to kind of track her down. Lost a little bit of time, but using his mind reading and all that kind of stuff, would have eventually found out where she was and sort of encountered her in a place which is kind of never really shown again. Although it was sort of, it's like one of the ruins that was kind of around the kind of the D the zone that used to be all the rat stuff and now is kind of just defunct like machinery that eventually people would come in and sort of take over. But yeah, so in there, he probably would have gotten Mubble back at that point, except that Yash showed up. And after that, that kind of changed everything because even like a rat power suit isn't going to be able to do anything against the humans. So he's like, okay, can't read their mind, can't physically fight them. What's he going to do about it? And of course, at this point, the lab rats are sort of like their own thing. They kind of like retreated to their own little zone, the Universe 26. Because of that, he wouldn't really have been able to like call on any sort of other rat resources besides what they had available to them, and they wouldn't have had much because most things are sort of pretty run down, and anything that's very like power intensive isn't going to be something that's worth using. So they wouldn't really have access to anything bigger than the rat power suit, and even if they did, that probably wouldn't work against human either. So he probably would have been racking his brain about it, and probably he would have had an idea to sort of use an outside force, like the sort of manipulating the raccoon army pretty early on, because as much as he can like not put himself in danger is probably good. So, but he probably wouldn't have done this kind of thing lightly, because as it sort of eventually came about, at the start it sort of looked like he was a bit of a villain, sort of orchestrating things, getting Marvel back, but sort of quickly turns out that he was a good guy, and it was all sort of a bit of a misunderstanding, and like sort of Marvel's surrogate dad after Marvel's parents died in some mysterious, as yet unexplained thing that happened. But yeah, he probably would have had the idea to use an outside force pretty quick. But he probably tried to find a way to do it which wouldn't result in such like incredible like catastrophe or warfare and sort of death on multiple sides of this conflict that he kind of like appropriated. He probably would have looked for that, and as a very last resort jumped in at this. So it probably wouldn't have been that long before the start of the time jump in the comic that picks up when Marvel and Seed are a little bit older. And yeah, so and the raccoons, the reason for that is the raccoons, as soon as they got hold of this advantage, being like a lab rat, they probably would have like jumped on the opportunity very quickly and sort of put their plan into motion as fast as possible while they still had the asset before he kind of changed his mind. So it would have been very shortly before kind of everything kicked off. They would have been putting their plans into motion on the raccoon side anyway, and then Sage would have just been like dragged along by it. So I'd say maybe like even like just a couple of weeks before the present time in the comic, I'd say would be around about when he kind of has been working with the raccoons. Because yeah, the raccoons are in a pretty desperate state. They wanted to get things sorted out pretty quickly, and so they would have done. So yeah, I think that answers that one. I'm gonna have to make this canvas a little bit bigger. They're getting real cramped. Image, canvas size, width, 3,000. And let's put it like this. And I guess I'm gonna have to go back and fill in the white. All right, back up to here. Okay, so Johan in hairless form, I would imagine that's the only thing that makes sense for a Beerus. Whoa, actually, if I were one to ever sketch anything and sort of care about how things are going instead of just drawing it, redrawing it 1,000 times, I'd probably do that. Use a little pencil sketch, but no. So he goes like this, he goes like this, and he's got kind of a fairly square sort of head when he's in this mode. Don't forget those purely black eyes. Yeah, so let's jump into another question. I guess he would still have his glasses. Why not? Goes on there. I can't remember when he lost them. He doesn't actually need them. He only really wears them to block out the view of his very strange eyes from the regular Victorian era people. So yeah, but he's wearing them now. I guess naked in every other way. Keep his eyes closed. So he's like, yeah, not that I know much about Beerus, but I think he's fairly like not stoic. He's kind of silly, but like he still doesn't like. He's still usually frowning most of the time. So let me just get up another reference for that guy. I suppose I better finish off the Calypso one. Oh yeah, she's got like the big neck bits. think that's the technical term. Necklace. Oh, la di da. I call them neck bits. So we've got this, and she's got that kind of skull slash like poison, I guess, symbol on that tank top. This, and we've got something like this. I'm not sure the contours of this gonna make sense. I guess I can. Oh, I don't want to break it down too much more than this. And then like this. Yeah. All right. And then let's go another ref. The only thing I've really seen with Virus in it was the Brawly movie, and he was in it for like 1 second at the start, just to say I could, but I won't. I think that's what I recall from that. Good movie, that one, though, actually. Having not seen anything of Dragon Ball Z since I was about 15, that was pretty sweet. Pretty good standalone little thing. I guess it would help to know a bit about like Planet Vegeta and all that stuff kind of going on beforehand. All right, another question. Back into here. Do animals have like news channels and digital newspapers? What about entertainment or simply news radio stations? So yeah, they would have that. It hasn't really shown it like too much. I'm gonna just bring him up a little bit, I think, because he's a bit too close. See if this can work. So yeah, they definitely would have that. And I guess the closest we've seen of that was when he's pretty tall. Like, oh no, oh, I forget how big Sobek is. She's like massively tall. She's actually taller than him. So I guess he can be a little small. And now let's see if I can. Nope, I thought that would happen. Why would I want to do that? Open canvas. Why would I want to change the size of the selection and not the size of the thing that is selected? Stupid. Okay. All right. Try that again. Somewhere else. Image. No. Oh yeah. Here we go. Transform, please. Scale. Yeah. All right. That's better. He's pretty tall, but he's not that. Yeah, he'd be about that, I feel like. Whoop. So yeah, in the first comic there was definitely some like news broadcasts, quite a lot of them. So first of all, well maybe not first of all, one of them was just the message that came through when Sodalite as a kid and all the other kind of sort of non-rat kids like first came into it, and with their teacher who got the message on their wristband. All the rats got the message on their wristband from like an announcement, like I guess public service announcement that the fear signal had gone down. So that was one time that happened. There's been several other sort of news broadcasts by Shaw where he would address kind of the whole northern hemisphere. It's sort of like a press conference or like a presidential like address kind of thing with a flag in the background. So there's definitely those, but those were more of a like a sign, more of a like an emergency situation. I feel like he'd be probably like sort of hands up, like yeah, yeah. So there's those kind of broadcasts, which is like a holographic kind of screen that would just sort of pop up wherever it needs to be. And so there's tons of those. Like when it sort of panned out in the city, there was like a whole bunch of those screens just like floating everywhere. So there'd be those to give kind of like a news broadcast that would be, necessary for everyone to see, no matter where they were. But in terms of just like entertainment and stuff, I didn't really get into it that much because in the first comic, it was more from the perspective of not really citizens of the sort of the empire, like Shaw's empire, more like people in Australia and doing stuff in a fairly wartime situation where they haven't really got time for that kind of thing. But certainly you can imagine that, like, because the lemur culture is based very heavily on human culture in a lot of ways, but like a weird kind of like chewed up and spat out sort of version of it. they probably have a lot of like talk shows and that kind of thing. A lot of sort of like comedies and stuff that would be similar to what was going on in sort of like human society. So they would definitely have a lot of that. There was like sort of party people. They work hard, they play hard. So they would certainly have a lot of sort of entertainment stuff, a lot of broadcasts based on that. The kangaroos probably would not. They've like fairly not militaristic, but sort of old fashioned and like yeah, again, not Amish, but like they value sort of hard work and things like that. And they're probably a society that your value is kind of like what you can provide sort of thing. And they probably wouldn't devote a lot of time to just having fun. They don't seem like the sort of society that would do that. They possibly do. I mean, they've got shops and they've got things around the place, but a combination of their kind of demeanor and what they sort of value and what they like to do and what sort of gives them purpose probably would mean that they haven't got a lot of that sort of thing. I guess it'd be the equivalent of sort of like a Victorian Edwardian sort of society where entertainment's probably a lot more people getting together and having like live action, having like parties in real life and doing things like that rather than having like broadcasts. And they probably have the news as well. It's shown at least a couple of times where there's been like a broadcast from the top of the sort of the tower in the middle of Rampart City. So they can do that sort of thing. They would have probably like radio broadcasts as well. They've got the equipment for that and sort of always did. So there's probably like radio plays and things like that, but that's probably about it. And as far as like how society is now, they probably in like with the fall of Shoal's empire and kind of all that, they probably have started to rebuild that, but that wouldn't have been their priority. So they probably still rebuilding that even after kind of 6 years. But they would have a lot. They've kind of gotten back to like a probably a level of technology that's about, even though they have like mechs and stuff, I like to think that it's not generally a sign of a more advanced society that they have these mechs. It's a combination of that the mechs work better for them because they're smaller, so they haven't got the mass issue and like the root square law with size kind of making things like messed up. So like robots are a more viable option for creatures that are smaller. So they'd be around about where we're at, maybe a little bit less in terms of their sort of societies. They'd have like, you know, 1980s sitcoms and whatever, I guess, in their new world. Yeah, so I guess long story short, yes, there's news, yes, there's broadcasts, yes, there's all that sort of stuff. Newspapers, probably not, because they're not a very kind of paper society. They sort of bypassed that, or they might have had that a long time ago before Shaw came along and kind of changed everything. Because even though they got set back with their technology by a long way, they still have remnants of it and like lots of it. So until they need to kind of start rebuilding, like building their own stuff, they can just use the wrist communicators and the little computers that are just everywhere. So because of that, they don't really have papers or anything. They would still just get like digital broadcasts of their little wrist communicators, which like everybody has, even the kids, because there's just so many of them. After all the rats and all the other people died out from starvation, after the food sort of went scarce and there was all the wars and everything, there's just tons of these things left behind. Okay, I think this is something. Big old hat. What else? Oh, we got earring. Boop. Yes. What else you got? It's got some armbands. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, the style's like kind of similar. Interesting. Wonder if Kira Toriyama had a little Donkey Kong. Wait, was he even involved with whatever season Beerus was in series? I don't know. Probably not. So yeah, he's got that. Oh, and got one a bit further down the wrist. And over here. And on the other one, because of course you would. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah. Alrighty. So think I'm pretty much done with this one, and then I'll jump into the next question and next. Oh yeah, I forgot already. What was that? Oh yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, next one. So let's go. Let's go. Let's just jump into chat, see how things are going in there. Whoop, 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 whoop. Where is it? Nope. Ah, oh my goodness. Um, uh, I can link the pic if that's all right. Of the plush. Yeah, that'd be cool. Are you sure you don't want my help? Well, we'll see how it goes. As long as people can handle it being all the art looking like it was drawn on a bus seat this time, it's probably okay. So he's more like snooping around and working alone. Yeah, the other lab rats didn't really care that much about Marble, so they weren't really willing to help him. So he's kind of just doing whatever. Just thinking if there was a small possibility of running into Maple or Arthur for a brief encounter. Oh, I see. Um, Maybe, yeah. Fits if it fits into the comic. Or they could be in the background somewhere. If there's like a flashback or something. So what do you think each model has been doing after the events of Industrial Revelations? Okay, yeah, that's a good one. I'll do that one before I jump back into the other Mordak question. Oh well, I said digital newspaper. They've got digital newspapers, yeah. And there is bracelets and arm bracelets. Oh yeah, I got them. Plush, yes. Yeah, that'd be cool to link that. All good. Um, all right, so I'll go in here and get another drawing one from Mordak's one. It's been a while since I've been doing one of those. Free flared grey looking brave with a dirt face and a caption that says pure of heart, dumb of ass. Ass. Yeah. All right, I'll do that. Okay, so what are the Immortals doing after the events of Industrial Revelations? Good question. So that's, I guess, a lesser known comic, one that I did when Restore Generation finished up, and I was just completely fed up with doing a color comic and really wanted to like just do a black and white one again. So I thought, oh, a good excuse to do a black and white comic would be to have it set in kind of like the Victorian age or thereabouts, kind of like 1864, where I could have an excuse to have a black and white with sort of hatching being sort of like the main like shading style. So yeah, I did that. It's sort of a story about a guy, like an immortal guy who's lost all their memories. And, anyway, I won't get too much into it, but there's a lot of immortals in there, and they were all kind of represented like through history by different sort of religions, gods, and things like that. So they sort of go through, but at the end of the thing, it kind of ends up with the reason why the main guy Jerry Hand sort of doesn't have his memories is because he slowly lost him, and all the other gods were waiting for that to happen because they needed to get rid of him because they found out something about him that is he's just like incredibly dangerous. They needed him to like lose memories of all the stuff he could do so that they could attack him and kill him, which they try to do with like ever escalating levels of sort of power. But and so Joanne's the main one. There's a lot of other gods as well, and they like a lot of them. Some of them die in the comic, but some of them do survive kind of past that. And so, what were they up to? So yeah, I was like sort of run through a few of them and like see what's going on. Okay, so it might take me a second to okay, derpy face. Let's see. This one's going to be pretty quick. Yeah, all right. That looks. I think he looked like this at least one. I think maybe his mouth needs to be like. No. Hmm? Yeah, determined, more determined. Let's lower those eyebrows a little bit. Looks like Kermit. That's fine. He's in company. All right, and I guess if this is pre-flared braise, Bray, yeah, he would have his kind of old style armor, and let's give him his like kangaroo stance. I guess is like boxing stance. Let's see, boxing. Yeah, what are those immortals doing? They are. Yeah, so I guess we'll go through a few of them. So I guess first of all, Johan and Sally. So Johan's the main guy. He was sort of the most powerful one. He ended up surviving, spoilers. And Sally is um, Sekhmet, the Egyptian god and of sort of war and stuff like that. And she ends up sort of getting together with him. So I guess the easiest one to kind of talk about is what they did. So they sort of wanted to stay out of things a little bit and kind of just live a life outside the limelight. So they would they do show up again sort of in the epilogue of Industrial Revelations where they're kind of just around. It's kind of about 1970. And yeah, they're kind of just standing around and they're wearing some sort of hippie sort of stuff. Not hippie stuff, I guess the stuff that was at the time, like turtlenecks and big jackets, wide ties, that kind of thing. So they would have just been like probably just grooving around through the centuries, not really wanting to make waves, but sort of just like using their abilities to make life fairly easy for themselves without making it sort of detrimental to anyone else. So they were getting around. Probably keeping the lowest profile out of all of them, which I guess is why I mentioned them first. But yeah, they probably just go to maybe like be not influencing, but like just appreciating like the music as that kind of evolves and the scenes with probably getting into some sort of psychedelic stuff and doing some probably some frowned upon kind of things not just with substances and all that kind of thing because who cares, they're immortal, whatever, have a good time. They're having a good time. So as they get sort of out of the sort of the 19th century, they'd be getting into the I guess like the flapper scene and like jazz and things like that, and probably become just like jazz beatniks for a little while, and then yeah, just riding the waves of whatever the chillest vibe is at the time. After being beatniks, they'd probably transition into hippies and yeah, just doing that stuff, avoiding all the wars one way or another. They probably wouldn't want to be involved with that because yeah, it's a bit outside their thing. Their whole deal is that they want to stop like society from advancing that far. So warfare is one of those things that kind of advances warfare very advances technology very quickly. So they'd probably be pretty anti-war. So while they aren't taking like a direct enlisting or anything in World War I or two or the Boer War or whatever else, they probably would have been taking action behind the scenes to kind of like make them end quickly if they could. Because yeah, the more advanced society gets, the more advanced life gets, and that sort of is bad for the universe. So I won't go into that. But in a sort of a weird macabre way, they probably would have been okay with war in some ways because that does kind of like reduce the population of the world a bit, which is something that is necessary in the way that the universe works in the kind of the generations law. They wouldn't like the war. They wouldn't really get involved, but they would be. It's a necessary evil to kind of like minimize that. All right, and not forget this caption. Now I can't write in real life, so this is probably going to be pretty rough with this tablet. Hero of Heart. This actually reminds me of oh, that's right. I can't talk and write at the same time. And I'm gonna run out of space. Not enough birthday cards over the centuries to surely know how to fit text into a thing. Close enough. Hot dumb of ass. So, ooh, speaking of embodying the thing that I'm That angle was far too steep. Term of A's. Yeah. This kind of does make, yeah, reminds me of, I was thinking of doing some little things kind of like this. It's like, I don't know, ideas for like a mug or a shirt or something like that. But you know, it's just a little pipe dream. I'm just so flat out with doing stuff at the moment. I've got so much on. I haven't really had a lot of time to do things. But there is another page of the comic coming. I've just finished it. I haven't uploaded it because I thought we would get the stream stuff kind of lost. So I haven't put that up yet, but that'll probably go up later today. But yeah, like I was thinking of something like the kind of the flag logos of the different like species with their sort of the color that represents them and their kind of like a motto or slogan sort of over the top, and maybe on the back of the mug, you know, a couple of the characters that represent that species. But yeah, just an idea, and it'll be, I guess, not exactly this, but like something like it. But anyway, just a thought for the future. But yeah, I've had so many kind of commissions, mainly like miniature painting ones that like sadly like they're kind of the thing that'll like pay the bills really, but um the thing I kind of like doing the least. I'd much prefer spending time doing like digital commissions or you know just the comic stuff and some stuff for the Patreon. But you know, things will all pan out and I'll be right. I'm still pretty dang lucky that I've got as much time as I do have to do this kind of stuff. But yeah, here we go. This pre-flared Bray with what I recall of his kind of original, not original suit. His original armor was like just a in keeping with the canon that I just decided was a thing, which is that shirts don't exist in kangaroo society. It's either an armor suit or he originally had like a brace, like a couple of bandoliers of something or other going on there. But that was too hard to draw, so I couldn't be bothered. So that's the main reason he changed into this outfit with his weird football pattern shoulder pads. Yeah, there we are. So I'll get another little drawing things. That didn't take very long, and I will uh Storm holding out his pocket rat to an enemy who then throws sand in their face while yelling out pocket sand. Oh poor Sage. Sure. Yeah. Oh, there's a link here. Let's open this. Possum armor. Right. So there's a link of possum armor, um, which is kind of just a possum and then armadillo bits, and you put the armadillo bits on there, and then yeah, it becomes an armadillo. Not wrong. I'll do the pocket sand one. So that's what those two are doing, as opposed to some of the other guys. So one of the other immortals was Horus or Harry. He's like a little hawk guy, and his power was that he could sort of kind of see the future a little bit, or like just sort of predict things. And his superpower was just that he was kind of smart, I guess. And yeah, he was one of the lower level gods. So he probably wouldn't have an ability that would. He's like not physically more powerful than anything. He just um, would be able to have a little bit of an insight into kind of how things are going to pan out in terms of um, different situations. He can like run the numbers in his head and sort of calculate the likely outcome of things. He'd probably like quietly become a billionaire. You sort of get the vibe that he already kind of was one. Storm's eyes. Yeah, he's kind of like that's not really Storm's eyes either, but I don't hate it, so let's go. Um he already was, because all the Egyptian gods were kind of like working with the French army in the start of Industrial Revelations, and he always goes about in like a white suit and things. So he already would have been like using his powers to game the system such as it was in that time. So that would only become like more of a thing later on. So Harry would definitely have, worked the stock market, gotten into gambling, all that kind of stuff to kind of use his abilities to the best in order to like make a fortune. And yeah, so I guess long story short, he's in there. He's a Wolf of Wall Street. He's down at the track, gambling every day, spending lots of money, making lots of money, being a real capitalist, probably investing in stuff that he predicts is going to take off. Since him and or not him in particular, but his friends and the sort of protagonists of the comic kind of start steering the population in a certain direction in terms of technology. So you'd probably be investing in all of those things like aeroplanes and railway and cars when they sort of come in. Maybe more of a this pose. Don't like I don't. Yeah, maybe more of a he's holding his arm out like that. Yeah, and it was probably like imminently like seconds before the pocket sand makes contact with the pocket rat. So he's like probably like leaning away a little bit. And I'd say he probably would have his armor. I don't see why he wouldn't. So let's just give him some of that. Oh, I know why. Because I can't be bothered drawing it. So that can just be his current form. Yeah, really going down like a traditional like comic route. It's like, oh, why no shirt? Why they wearing spandex? So you can see all their muscles. Like, oh, just oh, it's just easier that way. It's kind of like stopping the process halfway through, where you would have to do all their body underneath the armor anyway. But then it's like, oh, I'm covering up all that work I did. So yeah, that's why. And in this case, that's why he's also just wearing this. I guess this could still happen. This could be happening off screen around about the now time in the comic. I guess he'd have a bit of a shoulder here. Yeah, he's still got all of his other stuff there going on. The storm, the not Stormfront, the Brushfire family crest, and I guess like his mother, he would have the lightning bolt in there. A little touch that kind of changed a little bit after she became ruler. And so yeah, back to the gods. So yeah, Harry will be doing that now. Sobek, Rebecca was kind of just she probably just like she kind of likes fighting and using her abilities, which is basically to like dissolve the bonds or break the bonds in matter. So she is very physically strong, but she also can just like break down metal into a form that isn't as strong. So she can just like shatter things apart like very easily. So she'd probably be using that. She would have been doing that sort of up and before the comic as well. So things probably wouldn't change too much. So she'd probably, if she needed to get a job, she'd probably just be in demolition or just a soldier, but trying to keep it under wraps. She like even though she is pretty strong, if news got out that she was this super powered like god thing, that probably wouldn't be very good. So she'd probably be trying to like keep it under wraps. She can still be killed by bullets and whatever. So she'd be like going around doing some heavy lifting jobs, and there was a thing where like Harry's always trying to sort of to get together with her, and she said like something like not in a million years, and he's like, well, what about after that? And so maybe he's still holding on hope that there might be something possibly between them. So he might be sort of hanging around, and they were kind of friends. They weren't like they weren't really enemies or anything. Like you sort of got the idea that they were kind of buds, even though he was a bit of a creep. But yeah, they probably hang around together, and she probably like borrows money off him or something like that. So they'd be doing that for the next couple of hundred years. And then who else is there? So there is so Lionel, who is Osiris. He was sort of the main antagonist of the whole thing. He probably would be so he sort of died, came back, spoilers for comic from 15 years ago or something. And his sort of second in command or his friend is Thoth, But I don't think he even had like a name. His thing was that he has like a perfect memory, so he like never changes, or the ability to not go crazy with the idea of living forever. He can just like compartmentalize and store everything, so he remembers everything. Doesn't go mad. So but because of that, he never really changes his life or anything around. He's still got technology from like tens of thousands of years ago, and he's kind of just gone about. So he probably would just be doing his own thing. He did lose his technology at the end of the comics, so that kind of just destroyed it very easily. That was kind of the little rock paper scissors thing. Like he was pretty good against everything, but she had a bit of an advantage against his like stuff. She could just break it. Um, so he lost all that, but he'd probably become like sort of historian type, where he would be kind of looking into the past and trying to remember stuff, and like he'd probably become like an Indiana Jones type, where he'd be like going and trying to uncover sort of lost technology from the past. Because up until that point, he would be like just relying on stuff he just kept himself. But now that he doesn't have that, he probably would be needing to go and find some more from like buried finds and stuff like that. I'm not sure why Sage has got like a collar here. Um, hmm. Um, he's just wearing a cape. He just felt like it today, and I guess it makes it easier for him to be like lifted up. So yeah, Fox out there going around with his pith helmet. All the nations back when it was cool to do that. Go around and get into some tombs and try to find some ancient stuff that he can sort of start to rebuild, because he still wants to work with Osiris to kind of keep on doing the same thing. It ended up failing, but yeah, so they're definitely working together, going around. He doesn't really have many powers besides being immortal, and like completely immortal. Like the other ones can die, but they don't die from old age, but they can die from getting shot in the head, that sort of thing. So, but yeah, Osiris cannot die from that. So both of those are going around, just working together, making enough money that they can fully finance these expeditions to uncover all the wonders from the past, all these ancient stuff. I guess Sage at this point doesn't have his mind reading abilities, so he wouldn't have been able to know that this was going to happen. So he'd be like very kind of perturbed. Um, Pocket rat, an enemy throws, well, yeah, pocket sand. Okay, who would be the enemy throwing the pocket sand? Good question. I think the enemy would be... Tourmaline wouldn't really do that. Well, it'd be Sodalite. Let's make this canvas size a little wider. So we've got room for a pocket sand antagonist. Back here, fill that back in again. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I guess Sodalite. So he's pretty small. He's going to be on a. He's not that small. He's raccoon sized. He's going to be on a stool. Of course. Okay. Stool. Mushroom or whatever this. Okay. And then he's over here. Pretty close. There's some really close combat pocket sand. Really waited to see the whites of his head. I guess it's all white, so whatever. That's a bit too big. I think about this. This. I like the raccoon heads. They it's a bit different how I would normally draw something, so yeah, and he's pretty confident in his ability that the pocket sand will trump the pocket rat. So yeah, he's pretty smug. It's like, you've activated my pocket sand. He's probably like, it's in like mid. I guess he's like throwing it thusly. Oh god. Okay, here's the test. How can I? Yeah, all right. Now, can I do that same line again? Can I do that same line? You know what? That's close enough. Imminently. This photo finish sand imminent. I think that's all the immortals in the story that survived. I think there was any others. Yes, that's kind of what they're up to. All right. Terrible. All right. New question. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Um, with soul gems having ludicrous amounts of energy, were they not used as much as other energy generators due to the amount of time, energy, and resources to make one? So the thing about the soul gems is that they work in a very specific way, and it's the little like this was like hinted at in the comic recently when sort of Marvel's talking to Ray. They're sort of like a conduit because they use as I've sort of said before, they sort of use the brain as a computer to calculate a passage between dimensions from like an unlimited energy source in another dimension. But because it uses the conduit from the sort of the brain like that, it's all directly connected together because it's all brains are pretty crazy complicated and stuff. And because of that, even though you can use it to tap into energy like that, what you can use that energy for is not is not unlimited. You can't just use it for whatever. So you can't just make a generator. It's got to be like this gem is tapping into energy, which kind of forms a representation of you in that dimension kind of thing. So you can only really use it to make like mechs, something that like projects an image of you or something close to it. So whenever they've made a soul gem thing that's powered by one, it's always in the form of the creature that's projecting, and that's the like going back to a long way away. That is also the main reason why you can't use the human mechs unless you have a human shaped body. Yeah, because your brain drawing on the energy for the soul gem, it's drawing that energy in the shape of a human body. So it's not compatible with your own brain. So it works with the lemurs just, it works better with the humans. And if you think you're a human, if your brain is wired to think you're human, such as when you were recently flared, that also works. But yeah, you can't use. Actually, does he even need? He doesn't need that still. Let's get rid of that. Yes. How big is the eraser? Way smaller. Cool. So I wanted. Let's do this. There. All right. So yeah, you can only really use the soul gem power, at least in the way that we've seen, to sort of create a representation of you from out of the energy from another dimension. So yeah, Marvel's kind of gotten the closest besides the human sort of machines to like directly have no other sort of support required when she does that. So it's pretty much entirely soul energy at this point, for want of a better term. So if you were going to make a generator that used a soul gem, it would basically be like a big U kind of sitting in a room while it sort of like draws energy off. So not like an incredibly practical, and they would have had other ways to sort of generate power. The soul gems would have been particularly for kind of like self defense or you making a giant robot with wouldn't be really much else. Yeah, they would have had other energy sources. Like one big thing that sort of crosses between all the, I guess the world that I've got is that the main energy source, which is effectively limitless in the way it kind of like perpetual motions, in a way, is the gravity nuclear thing. So they would have used that sort of using gravity manipulation to make a like intense gravity field in order to create a fusion reactor that then you can draw like basically unlimited power from. you still need obviously stuff, but with the fusion, you can just use like hydrogen and stuff, like elements that are everywhere. So they, yeah, they would have used something like that for their more mundane like power generation, and also solar power and power, obviously with the Twilight Shroud. A very like efficient form of solar power would have been what, and combined with the nuclear power to like do most of their stuff. They would have used the solar power mainly later on, like after they no longer had a direct control over the real world, because it's something they didn't really need to monitor that much or like figure new fuel into. It was kind of just always there. That's why that was sort of a more prevalent like power source than anything else. Sorry, did I answer that? Yeah, so the resource is to make them not that much. Like once you kind of know what you're doing, you can just make them very easily, as like as shown by everyone who's done one so far. Made them basically instantaneously, and so did Marble. So not that difficult to make. They're just more limited in like their application at that point anyway. Do they have hair? No. Does he have markings? Yes. His markings specifically go point down, point like that, and not connected down the back like a lot of them are. Kind of set him apart from the others a little bit. Not that it was that obvious, but yeah, I think that's that. No, Storm doesn't have. There we go. All right. So it's been a while since I've been in chat, so I'll just jump back in there and see what the happenings is. Just missing a little blip tongue. Oh, on the derp, I think this. Oop. Oh, I think I was drawing on that. Oh, whatever, I guess. Back to this. Right. All right. Back here. Here's a suggestion. What a female bat in our shadow universe would look like wearing a power suit like amethysts. Okay. I can does that. If you were writing Nim, would the story be something similar, sort of, or would it be something completely different? Okay. Okay, so a bat in an amethyst power suit and a would Nim be different? All right. Now I'm pretty sure I know what bats look like. Not that I ever draw anything like what they're supposed to look like. Anyway, bats. I'm gonna draw a cool bat. And bats can be little freaky little dudes. I feel like they're so small, so you can't really focus on how freaky their tiny little weird face. Sorry, this is my opinion. A lot of bats are very cute, but some of them are little gremlins. I do like flying foxes, obviously. So that would be my default kind of bat to draw, but I feel like that's kind of cheating. So I'll try to find a bat that they're all flying foxes, aren't they? How about this one? Oh, like this is all ears. I can't even see its face. Oh, that's pretty cute. This little. I guess anything reasonably small is going to be pretty cute, just by default. There's like some sort of graph there. Man, bats can look like anything, huh? Guess. I do like the gigantic ear ones. Actually, I'm gonna go on those. All right, little ref. Now the big question is, if we're doing this super properly, like I do all things, how would a bat exist in this world? How would they have evolved? Because I guess they've kind of got hands as their wings, sort of. But I guess like a bit of a cop out is that when the rats sort of were the first ones to like gain intelligence and and evolve fast enough that they can use the human technology and kind of advance themselves and like go down our same path. They sort of, once they kind of got a certain amount of intelligence, I guess kind of like equivalent to like maybe like the Stone Age human or something like that. they started to like enslave the other races and selectively breed them to be more applicable to what they wanted. So they took things like bears and like made them more docile and um, kind of. I got a message. Don't worry about that though. Oh, there was one from G earlier saying she wasn't in the stream anymore. So if something goes wrong, my fault, and I must deal with it. Um, what was I saying? Oh yes. So yeah, they sort of enlisted mice first of all as like a little like underling sort of slave race. So the mice did kind of were the first to evolve with help from like kind of not genetic engineering but selective breeding to make them smarter and more like what the rats wanted. So bears got smaller and more docile. A lot of the creatures changed like based on that. So bats, I can see being having certain qualities that probably the rats would want. So I'd say like being able to fly, obviously, and being fairly small and not terrifying because rats, like they would have like sort of a fear of cats, they also would have a fear of most birds probably, or big ones anyway, the ones they'd be able to use for things. So they probably wouldn't be like uh, in like wanting to enlist their help, even though birds are quite smart, and they would probably have been able to sort of become even smarter and do whatever. They probably wouldn't have been able to because the rats would have stopped them at some point. Bats have teeth, right? I think so. Um, so yeah, big ears, squarish sort of head. So yeah, I guess the bats would have been selectively bred to do certain tasks that the rats would need them to do, like flying stuff around, especially if they had Stone Age technology. They've got access to a very convenient rodent based kind of flying service. So I suppose they would have like been selectively bred to sort of retain their flight abilities, but probably to not, um, so they're smart. They can manipulate things or whatever. So how would that even work? Let's just do like a generic body, I guess. What do bat bodies look like? An ice cream cone with feet at the end. So that's pretty basic, pretty standard for um, that kind of thing. So it would end up being roughly the same as what the bodies ended up being like. Yeah, Shadow. I guess the main difference would be that I don't like that. It's small. They would probably have like specially designed armor to account for the fact that they were bred for their flying stuff and like still would be using that. Like their feet, I'm not sure if I'll draw the foot, but the feet probably would be like more articulated, so they'd be able to hold on to stuff upside down. See, it's been a while since I've drawn like a proper, just basic amethyst style suit. This, like this. But as opposed to what I would do with the Secret of Nim story, I kind of already did it. I think as I've mentioned before, In Our Shadow basically is that. There's like a sci-fi version of it. So yeah, but if I was gonna like take it and like directly, because I know the Don Bluth version is not particularly faithful to the book, because he wanted to add in some like magical sort of element, which I think is fine. I think that works very well. So like I kind of want to say I probably wouldn't change much if I was just gonna like do the like the story from the book, Mrs. Frisbee and the Prisoner of Azkaban or whatever it's called. But I probably would. Yeah, I like the way the movie came out so much. I probably wouldn't change it too much. But if I didn't know about that, yeah, I guess I'd lean more into like sort of what I do with the within our shadow, sort of leaning more into like the sort of the ethical psychological kind of thing about it, which isn't really in Secret of Nim much. It's more just a straight up story of like overcoming adversity, and the rats are smart, but don't worry too much about that. That's not that important. Um, Now, the big thing is going to be how much of this stays as wings. Of course, that's going to be, I guess, probably all of it. I guess they still have wings. They can sort of just like, um, in that case, I better get rid of this arm here. It's really bugging me that I cannot change the size of the brush easily, but yeah, very slowly erase this arm. We'll be back on track next time. So get rid of this, and I guess yeah, I don't see how they would lose that. Um, I don't think they'd be able to do something like a Rouge the Bat style thing where they just have wings and arms. That's not really how things work. Probably how like that would be like the thing that would be like most, I guess, good in terms of like character design, but not really in terms of like realism. So we've still got the bat wings kind of folded up. I think that's kind of like how they go. And they would still be kind of connected. So we'd still have this, and we'd still have this. And I suppose the whole thing could also be sort of like enclosed in sort of armor stuff as well, but I'm not sure how much I wanna. I don't know. That'd probably be detrimental to the whole thing. I feel like maybe they can sort of use their hands a bit. They sort of got this little bit here, which I think bats have. Yeah, they got little claw hands, so they've still got that, so they can sort of manipulate some stuff and like use their wrist communicators and things like that. But they've still got the main big wings, and there would be, I guess, like a gap or like a bit sort of connecting the armor suit to the wings, so to give it a bit more support. I probably have a slightly more powerful gravity pack, so maybe that's a little bit bigger, a bigger triangle, or maybe like a couple of triangles on the back here to kind of enhance their ability to fly more easily. And yeah, if I can just get these like feet these up here just to see, we probably have like a foot that's a bit more clawed, so it can grab onto stuff, things like that. Secret nim wise, I would get into more like the ethical stuff, like for better or worse, because generally, Orwellianly or whatever, you would use animals as a metaphor for different classes or races or whatever in order to tackle subjects and have like a degree of separation. Whereas the Don Bluth film of Nim didn't really do that. There's no real kind of like message, I don't think. It's been a while since I've seen it. At least I don't think there is. There's like probably a very vague one about like don't don't do something. Don't. I guess the whole thing with like Jenna and there's sort of a political thing going on, but it's not really anything that you couldn't have done if you just used humans instead. So yeah, it's odd that that's like one of the only kind of like of its type, that sort of animal based thing. Even like Five or American Tail and stuff. That's all very obviously allegorical in terms of like another Don Bluth film. So it's odd that it isn't. So I'd probably be doing a little bit more of that. It's a good excuse. Don't rustle any feathers, but people still know what you're doing. So yeah, I feel like this is probably something like what a bat would be like. I'm still not sure if bats are around, but that giant rambling that I did earlier would be probably how, if so. And yeah, they'd have like the big clawed feet. What's this? Oh, I don't know. Don't need it. Delete that. Delete all this. And I'll leave the other one to kind of go off screen a little bit. Oh yeah, could better put the detail in here. Yeah, developed by rats in the distant past. That is not correct. To do flying stuff, and then I guess when they made their own flying stuff, they kind of got repurposed into scouts. And you always need people to be able to be flying around without like a giant machine. Pretty handy. So yeah, I guess that's an in our shadow bat. Yeah, and kind of just like like the rats tend to have pretty long hair, but none of the other kind of races do. Lemurs do, but for a similar reason, in that they're more advanced. Oh, we just got back. We didn't just get back. We went to Canberra recently, and I got to go to the zoo there, and that was pretty cool. I got to see a bunch of lemurs running around, and that was pretty adorable. They were like right next to the cafe or the restaurant, so we could just like get our food and just watch them do their little lemuri stuff. Which is like, oh yeah, so they're going to be back in the comics soon. So now I've got some first hand. I don't think I'd seen one in real life before, so that was pretty cool. Yeah. Zoom out a little bit. Yeah, I think that's a bat. I don't think I'm missing any key features. I guess they've kind of got this. Well, yeah, maybe let's get rid of this line here and just bring those kind of little lines in. Boop, boop, boop. Something like this. All right, back to here. Oh, I forgot Bastet. Okay, yeah, all right. I'll do that. Oh, you meant for Sage to throw this. Oh, okay. Uh, okay. I misunderstood that. Let me just go back and all right, because I read it as Dom holding out his pocket rat to an enemy who then throws sand. I thought you meant the enemy throws sand. Okay, I'm gonna do an. That's way better. So I'm just gonna quickly go back and modify that while also doing the last bit of the thing that I forgot. So let's turn this one back on. Let's just copy all this. Edit, copy, new layer, edit, paste. Oh, okay. What? Oh God, what have I done? Okay. Can you please copy the right thing? Okay, copy. Come back here. Edit, paste. Now, okay, thank you. It's recorded. I swear I'm not losing my mind. That was very strange. So that selection. Okay, now we're just gonna modify this. These guys are two pictures, by the way. I'm making the rules on this one. So we've got different expression here. I guess we're gonna keep his pose because like, oh, his teeth, yeah. And then he's gonna be doing a similar kind of motion. Oh my God. Like I've never drawn in my life. Oh, there we go. And then there and there and I guess he's attacking some unsuspecting something. Angel, you okay? Oh, thank you. I was just brought some life in water by someone who has a keener understanding of staying alive than I apparently do when I'm streaming. So yeah, now that it's there, I'll have to endeavour to have a drink of the water. do it right now because immediately after leaves my brain, I will not. Okay, there we go. Problem solved. Okay, so this was a new one that has nothing on it. Okay, cool. So the bats live in caves and trees, and what is their civilization like? Also, has any species experimented with robotics? So okay, let's yeah. Oh, so much to talk about. All right, I'll get another. Okay, she's back now. What would happen if there was a hybrid lab rat, regular rat? Ooh, interesting. Would it have the powers of a lab rat? Come to think of it, how are hybrids viewed in our shadow? Yep, come to think of it, would you consider bats to be plantigrade or digigrade? Whatever they are at the moment. I think they're plantigrade, right? I don't know. They've got such little legs. I don't know. But yeah, whatever they are at the moment is what they would be. Draw a reboot version of a Stolen Generations stride. Okay. Wouldn't the wings be covered in lightweight armor too? Yeah, I'd say they are. Maybe just they are a little bit. And don't bats have hands on their wings or something? I'm going off what I saw in the Silver Wing cartoon. Their wings are their hands, but they've got like a little thumb claw. But apart from that, the wings are just their fingers that are just incredibly long. Yeah, what happens to Bastard after? There's okay, a lot of things to say. So let me just draw an updated version of an In Our Shadow. Sorry, a Stolen Generation Strider. They probably won't change too much, and also this is not a good format to be planning something. But because they already the thing I'd probably change about them the most is that they would be they'd have their legs would be more like that rather than like that, which is a thing I've kind of steered away from a little bit in recent times. Zoom in here a little bit. I did a stabilizer. Not too late now. So the probably I guess long story short of like what that would look like would be similar to how they look in the like the Sia comic, the Two Steps Forward. That's probably like basically the same, only a little bit more refined and a little bit more detailed. Kind of like there's a pretty obscure reference, but like I really like sort of Space Battleship Yamato, and a little while ago they brought out Space Battleship Yamato 2199, like a reboot kind of thing, and they pretty much kept everything the same, like style wise, except that they just added more detail to stuff and like put in little made it look a lot more like it was real instead of it was drawn on like a napkin in 1970. So things like rivets and little hatches and bits and pieces. So the yeah, there'd be a lot of kind of like this sort of thing, which was there in that comic where things like around the edge would have sort of like it looked like this except a bit better and less obvious, like a very kind of flat, not too heavily sort of distinguished or embossed, like just like little bits and like rivets and circles around the place just to make it look like it's an actual thing that could work. But yeah, what would Bastard be doing at the end of Industrial Revolution? So she was like the god who knew all about like how life systems work, and she could sort of change things about her body and like could just even kill you with not well, it's sort of like pressure points or that kind of thing. She's understood biology so perfectly she could sort of do anything related to that. And she like in the comic sort of famously was staying out of it because Johan was her son kind of, and she didn't want to go along with the rest of the plans of the other god to kind of like slowly allow him to lose his memories and sort of kill him. She sort of knew it would have to happen, but she didn't want any part of it. So I guess a little bit like kind of Toriel in it's going back to Undertale again. In that they don't agree with the plan, but they're not like actively going to stop it. They are just going to have nothing to do with it. So she was just like out doing her own thing, not interacting with the other gods for like a really long time until she kind of got brought back into it. So there were a few different Strider classes in Stolen Generation. There was like the sort of boxy ones that were kind of an older design, and then the new sort of sleeker ones that were a little bit more, yeah, a bit more modern and could do a bit more stuff. But there was quite a lot, and they sort of, even through the progress of that story, because that took place over quite a long time compared to like some of the more recent comics. They had a lot of time to make new designs, take cues from technology that was like constantly being found out, and all that kind of stuff to advance things. Um, the sort of a bit more. So this is just like a thought experiment, I guess. This is not really going to be. Probably most of the technology from the original comic is going to be, in terms of the like the placental military stuff, is going to be roughly the same, just a little bit more kind of updated in terms of its like look and the detail that's on it, because the detail of that comic is not very present. But yeah, they still have the kind of thing where like the bodies sort of go like this. But yeah, what's Bastard doing? I keep getting distracted. Yeah, so she is, well, it would kind of go back to what she was doing before. So kind of there was a bit of a hint as to what she was doing, even in the end of the comic itself. So for a lot of that comic, she had the cat dude, like the cat with the top hat, Maverick, who was kind of like the original, not boss, but like the main guy of the group, and then he sort of got superseded once the new sort of main character of it sort of came into it. So he kind of got a little bit salty and sort of ended up going off with Bastet and just doing some stuff together with them. So they would like, she sort of sees him as kind of a like a pet more than anything, and but he sort of wants to be a bit more than that. But yes, so they probably like stay together just for a bit of mutual companionship, just wander around. So now that like there's no real danger of anything going on, and like the plot against Johan has been like more or less resolved, at least for now. She's not really having any reason to stay hidden anymore. So she'd probably just be in contact with the other gods, getting more in touch with reality and present stuff, and probably getting into like modern sciences as that kind of develops, and maybe even like become a scientist and start working on some stuff with the animals that are around the place. But she yeah, she sort of got sort of fairly bored, and she like her kind of whole thing, she was just hanging around in like the Middle East somewhere. So she hadn't really had a lot of contact with like sort of the Western civilization. So she'd probably be pretty keen to have a look at that and see how that's going. Learn a lot of stuff, work with some scientists, probably become a doctor, maybe something like that. So yeah, these things sort of like a mix between like what they look like in the original comic and what the Striders look like in our Shadow, like something like that. So yes, that's similar kind of thing. And yeah, they would have. I'm gonna that technical. I'm going. Sorry, I'm mumbling. I'm going to do that technical manual thing where they don't draw the arm. That's just implied. It's over here. It's going to join in over there. But they don't want to cover up all this stuff that is did. So they do have like sort of like an under. It's such a weird shape. Like I've really got to like make one in real life at some point, because it's quite a difficult thing to kind of like visualize, like this shape. I don't know why I did it like this, but like looking at it from underneath is like, how the heck, like what? How does this do? But yeah, it's kind of goes like, oh, it wouldn't be that far forward actually, like this. Yeah, case in point has made a mistake, but like it's got like a fin that comes to a point like underneath, and then that fin kind of continues back a little bit to like a kind of chest divot kind of down here. But there's, yeah, so something like this, I guess, would be like the way they're going to look, only not drawn like garbage. The main difference is going to be what the marsupial mechs look like. They're going to be like entirely different. And I'll probably have a go at drawing some of those at some point. But a lot of it's going to be in their look in terms of their glowiness. If I were to draw it right now, you probably wouldn't get like an idea of like what it is. It's going to be a lot of like like dots and lines and circles and weird stuff and lots of kind of psychedelic colors. So that's going to be the main difference of those. And yeah, more similar to kind of how mechs are in our shadow, where a lot of it is made up of light in terms of instead of just metal. And the more advanced it is, the more light it has. So yeah, I kind of have got my default look in terms of what a robot is. So a lot of it's gonna stay the same. Otherwise, if I try to change it too much, it's going. My brain's gonna just like slowly change it back into into something that's more comfortable for it to draw. It's kind of like whenever I'm a D&D character that isn't the usual idiot. If I try to be something else, it eventually turns back into an idiot. I can't do anything else. So like, I'm not going to kid myself and say that the Striders are going to look any different. Okay, there were a few. They probably will, because traditionally the Strider feats were a just like the flat kind of that. May change that to like a proper foot, or maybe not. I don't see why they would need a foot actually. So, well, they only even have legs to begin with, and this is kind of some slightly deep lore, I guess. I think it explained it in a comic that I did like a trillion years ago in Divergent History, where the reason why all the mechs have legs is because if they got too close to the ground, their gravity motors would mess everything up. So like the anti-gravity fields that cause them to move around would affect everything on the ground. So they've got to make it's like the gravity field comes like down just to the feet, and they can sort of just stand up there. They can momentarily like lower down a little bit, much like a Zoid pilot. They can just jump out of the cockpit, and because the gravity's so reduced, they're not going to take any damage. And they can similarly just jump back into it. So they only have legs to keep their gravity field off the ground. They don't really use their legs for much else besides that, and so they can land in basically any sort of terrain. So yeah, this is probably something like how the design will change a little bit. I don't like that back bit. They do have that, like as opposed to the ones in our shadow that have like just like an engine at the back. These ones kind of just go to a like a point, like a fin kind of thing. But I'm not sure if I love it. I'll probably maybe make it a bit longer, or maybe I'll have to think about changing that in some way. Just like they need to be a bit more aerodynamic. But yeah, something like that. Now, I do remember there being like quite a few. Oh yeah, I guess I could put the other arm in there. Coming from question mark and going over here. Yeah. All right. Can mice and rats have? Oh yeah, all right, that's right. The hybrid thing question, and I think there was another part. More. Oh yeah, rat and lab rat. What happens? Okay, I'm answering some of these questions real quick. What sort of mech do you prefer? Gundam, BattleTech, Armored Core, or something else? I like not BattleTech. I can tell you that much. I like Armored Core is very cool, and Gundam's okay. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I guess my favorite mecha anime. I like Evangelion, even though that's not technically a mech. I like the design style, and that's obviously where a lot of my design cues come from. I like um, I like Robotech. I really love Macross. I love the mecha designs in that. And you might say, "Oh, that's not much different from BattleTech," but it is. It is a bit. Not in like the original like BattleTech designs that they thought they had the license for from Big West when they didn't, and they had to get rid of most of the designs they ripped directly from Macross. But after that, I don't like their design. I think they're a bit goofy and boxy and weird. So not that goofy is necessarily a problem, but I just think of the Atlas and it's like, what is that? I don't like it. Anyway, that's my opinion. Feel free to disagree. That's fine. And yeah, Gundam's fine. It's obviously iconic and all that kind of stuff. Um, and Armored Core is beautiful. I love those designs. It's kind of like how I wish I could draw, I guess. But yeah, I'd say Macross is my favorite set of like mecha designs anyway. Oh, okay. A lot of cool games coming out this end of this month. Yeah, G is really excited to play Paleo Pines. Got Armored Core and Starfield coming out. Yeah, I wish I was better at games. I'd certainly play Armored Core. I looked into also the remake of Front Mission, which is another sort of similar game, which I loved back in the day. I played Front Mission so much. It wasn't the original; it was on like the DS or something. But that was amazing. That similar mech designs to Armored Core, but not quite as refined. And they're called Wanzers, which you gotta love. So I like the designs in those as well. If you haven't seen Front Mission mechs, they're fine. They're cool, and I love that game. But the remake apparently is not that great, but also is recently out. Um, yeah, a lot of cool games coming out. Just too busy with Final Fantasy 14 events. Yeah, that I'm getting that from all directions. They got me coming and going. People in my D&D group also big into Final Fantasy right now. I didn't expect you to say that about Gundam. Any particular reason for your feeling towards Gundam? What, they're just kind of like, eh? I don't know. It's just, they're okay. They're fine. They're just a bit boring. I don't know. I've never been super massive into Gundam. But I guess because I was really into Transformers and like, even though it's the reverse is true, I need to get another drawing prompt before I start yammering on about all this junk. So let me just, I don't remember seeing um so when I get around to playing Armored Core 6, I'm going to try to make the color the same as Arthur Strider. Cool. Yeah, nice. White. Um, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so I don't think there's any more suggestos there, but I do have certainly a lot of questions to answer. So let me just jump back into Patreon. Um, okay. Um, I do want to do a Mouchly meme, but I just don't feel like I could do it justice, especially now. Um, a lot of these ones with like Maple and Arthur, I feel like I've already done them all, but I think it was just one. I'm just conflating them in my mind. Um, a lot of these meme ones, yeah, I'll have to really look at the memes first. Uh, After getting scanned by confused lemurs metal detectors trying to figure out where he's keeping all that metal, airport security. Ah, yes, I had to go through that kind of recently. So turn this off. We'll get a new layer in here, and then I'll get onto them questions. So, uh, I guess they would have to like the new lemur situation. They'd have to make their airport security like big enough for. He's not. No, he's no bigger than a lemur. Actually, he is a little smaller than a lemur. I don't know why, for some reason, in my head, he was really big. I guess he is really big compared to um like other rodents, but lemurs are a little bit bigger. So he's not huge compared to them. Um, yeah, I guess the Gundam thing. Like, I um I grew up with Transformers, obviously. If I were to pan around this room more than like the tiny fraction that you can see in the webcam, you can see a little. You can see a adequately sized um, metroplex up there, but there's more there's more transformers in this house than there are thing in thing. But there's a lot of that thing in the thing. So just think about that. There's a lot. Anyway, my point is, I came from Transformers, so when I saw Gundam, I guess I was like, oh, this is kind of just like it just looks like Optimus Prime, but like it's not Optimus Prime. And I guess that sort of like took me. I wasn't when I sort of encountered Gundam, I wasn't really of an age to really understand like the political intrigue and all that stuff. And I never watched the original, even though like in hindsight, it looks like something I would like super love because I love all that political stuff and like all the different factions and all that kind of stuff. And I guess when I was sort of getting into anime, it was like Gundam Wing and Gundam Zero and stuff like that. And like it kind of just I don't know, it just seemed a bit dumb. I like sort of a more realistic. Ironically, I like a more realistic mecha anime, which is what Gundam definitively was, or like the first of its kind to be that. Um, But when I just happened to be like getting into anime and Gundam and stuff, it was just the really goofy, weird little teenagers in their giant robots going around. I was like, yeah, I don't know, not really for me. If I want to watch that, I'll watch a Zoids New Century or something. So I didn't like later on. I've liked Gundam more. Like I watched Gundam Unicorn. I thought that was amazing for the animation. That was like spectacular. And then I've seen like War in the Pocket and Eighth MS Team and all those like classic ones. And I do like how Gundam tends to not sort of skimp out of their animation or like do too much of a cheat with their CG all the time. They do it sometimes, but I can't stand like CG mechs unless it's done really well. So um, I'm glad they do it. So from an animation perspective, I really like Gundam, but from a design perspective, they're all kind of just the same. I like my mechs to be like have a little differentness to them, and a bit of variety, and I don't know, they're okay. As I said, I don't dislike Gundam. It's just like not my favorite. I like the storylines and the tone of like what's it called Universal Century 79 whatever, the one where it's more realistic. I really like that. um what yeah. I don't do this very often, but I am now because I'm struggling in other ways. Might as well take control where I can get it. So enter and go. Now, airport security, we're going to um, what's a getting scanned pose? I guess it's like a this. But yeah, hybrids. Um, so I guess I'll start off with the what about hybrids in general. There aren't really any like normal rules apply. Like normal Earth rules apply to the animals in our shadow. So you can't really like crossbreed or anything. So like I made like a very limiting kind of world really. This was the one that I was trying to make my sort of realistic. Like it is a stretch, but like based on how things and how genetics work, like this could be possible kind of world. So as such, it's limited like the races that are around and the possibilities that you can have in terms of like their interaction with each other on a reproductive level. But yeah, so you unless they can do it in real life, you can't really do it in the thing. I'm gonna say that mice and rats probably is the like convergent evolution, like especially being controlled by the rats. I'd say that it's possible, like of all the things that could be comboed or crossed over, that a rat and a mouse probably is the only one that could be a thing. And yeah, I don't think, even though like wallabies and kangaroos are pretty similar, I don't think that they can crossbreed either. So that'd be the other thing that like immediately comes to mind is something that's like pretty similar. I guess Arthur would be having to wear just like civvies since he wouldn't be able to, like, obviously he wouldn't be wearing all of his big armor through airport security. Bit of a polo. I don't know what it is. Fashion sense gonna be. But here we go. Um, and yeah, whatever logo can be on there. I'll get back in chat and see if Mordak, if there's anything you want to have on the shirt here. Um, but yeah, there's no hybrids. But different on a different note, cool, what would happen if a lab rat kind of got together with a non-lab rat? So yeah, you tend to see them in the comic as their own, basically their own species, and that's because they effectively are. So they were genetically engineered by humans, like a long, long time ago, like even quite a long time before they kind of went into final version and did all that stuff. Possibly even before the neural flare kind of stuff kind of took off. But yeah, so they effectively have been genetically modified so much that they can't really have kids with any others. That's why they're always such a small minority. If they could do that, like probably everyone would be a lab rat at this point, because during their the early years of development, when survival of the fittest was, an important thing and technology wasn't really evolved yet. The lab rats were like small in number, but they still had like a very distinct advantage in that they could sort of basically perpetuate their society without really worrying about natural selection, because they could read minds, and they could read the minds of any animal. So they can, they could read human minds, not that there were any for a long time. The thing holding them back with that is that they just can't understand the human language, or it's so different to like the sort of combined animal language. But they could certainly like read the intent in even like a normal animal and stuff like that. So they'd be forewarned. So even though they would breed, their population was very small. As long as they kind of kept on breeding a little bit, they would never die out. So yeah, they're effectively their own species, which is why you've never seen a combo with like a normal rat. Again, like it does limit things in terms of like in a narrative sense, and it is kind of like, not that it's a thing that would happen, but like, if people would ever want to make like OCs or whatever, like obviously one thing they do like to do. Oh, I guess this is an OC right here. What am I talking about? But yeah, I don't want to like put myself as like being important enough that people would do that regularly, but like it means that it's limiting, because people do like doing their combos when they're with their OCs, me included. I think maybe I'm sure I've done it at some point anyway. But yeah, so unfortunately, the answer to that is there's no real avenue besides like mice and rats. There's no kind of interspecies relationships possible with that one. Uh, Lemurs are actually so cool in real life. I don't know if you all check. I just like they're so like, because I don't like monkeys. Another and perhaps controversial opinion. I really super dislike them. But lemurs are just like monkeys, but they look cool. They're not like hideous, and I don't like them at all. So yeah, they're just like there's fun, and they're going around doing normal monkey stuff, but their faces just look like a cross between like a chihuahua and like a different type of chihuahua. Like they just, I don't know, they're hilarious. Um, so I guess generally they would have their sort of like, I suppose you've only really seen like the civilian lemurs and the military ones up to this point in the comic, but they definitely have an equivalent sort of airport security sort of uniform. So I guess we've got like we'll go with he's got the kind of handheld one, and yeah, kind of a collar, sort of shirt, the little kind of, I don't know what they look like. They did use it on me, but I was too paranoid to pay attention. Something like that. I don't know. The little folded up fan. He's gonna do some fan dancing later. We'll have one over here, just like going. What the? They're holding it. What? Why is it doing that? Why? Okay, good enough. It's making this little divot no matter how slowly I did it. I'm gonna blame the tablet or something. No, they generally have big round eyes, even if. Yeah, okay. All right. So I think that sort of answers that. Okay, where am I? Do. Oh, I missed a few little things in there in the chat. Looks kind of like a Metal Gear. Yeah, it does. It does. Does it not? It certainly does. Yeah, everything looks like something. Well, I changed the original Strider design because after I'd done it, then Mech Warrior came out and it looked exactly like a Timberwolf. I'm like, what? So then I had to redesign it, but anything's going to look like anything. So that's just one of those things. Joining type of Strider, but it lands in the human world, probably in a ballpark or something. I kind of did that in the comic, the Two Steps Forward comic. Is in a little circus tent. Um, Skunk Strider. All right. One of these days I'll do that. I'll finish this one first, though, obviously. Um, cavity search. Live action practical effect mech in anime show. A live action practical effect mech in anime. Watch Robot Jocks. It's probably the closest I can think of to that. Uh, only other mech anime I know of was Big O and Metabots, both excellent. I haven't watched much of Metabots, but my sister was like crazy into Metabots, so I got into them a little bit. I had like a few little toys back in the day. I had Similodon, uh, not Rikusho. Um, uh, anyway, a couple of them. Nothing wrong with the dad shirt. Okay, dad shirt. If this was my dad, this would be his shirt. So we'll just go with that. Big O has practical effects. Oh no, no, it just looks like Batman, Batman the animated series, but also crossed with Asuma Tezuka style. Um, all right, another thing. All right, so yeah, if anyone's got any more questions, otherwise I'll just keep on drawing this one. I think I went through them all on the. Oh right. Here's one more. But how tall was Nero before the flare? So yeah, for those who don't remember, Nero is Shaw's original name, which was a very kind of heavy-handed, um, what do you call it? Um, call out uh, reference to the Roman emperor who burned Rome, Nero. Um, yeah, so that was his original name, and he was kind of like just like a normal brown rat. He was like very typical. He had like brown eyes, and he was kind of like very subdued and all that kind of business. And he was like a bomb expert, just going around with his little lab rat bodyguard occasionally to to plant bombs and cause hassle before he became what he is today. How tall was he? Not very. So if you go back to like his the pages in the flashback where he was in, he is not very big, even compared to Lena, who is also not particularly big. When they're fighting against the raccoons, you sort of get an idea of how big they are compared to them. And then if you compare that, I guess, to excuse me, to sort of how the raccoons and the lab rats sort of match up in our shadow. No, yeah, part two. Then yeah, you sort of get an idea. So Atlanta like a little average, maybe a little below average height wise for a rat, and Nero was even shorter than that. So he was actually quite small. So a normal rat is about sort of 2.5 feet tall in the comic. So he would have been about 2 foot 2 foot 4 or something like that, maybe a little shorter and probably made even shorter because yeah, that sort of is implying that they are also in their power suits, and so out of that, probably even less, maybe like 2 foot 2. So yeah, pretty small, almost like about the size of Brianna, who is 2 foot tall. Excuse me. So yeah, pretty small in stature. So yeah, they're gonna be one sort of just the manager, I guess, has been sort of called over to like investigate this. And then I suppose I'll do like the actual. Well, there'll be another one like down here because they're all sort of getting in. Yeah. What's going on? All right. I guess I'll just bring the over here a little bit. He's probably got another one of like these style of ones, just doing a more close up. Yeah, I feel like this one's all like looking at it like in disbelief, as if like, why is this not showing the results that I want? Said every scientist. Like this, and yeah, he's like just doing a more direct scan. He's like sort of wiggling it back and forth. This scanner thing, like too much off screen because yes, this. They're one of those ones that yeah, again look really weird when you don't sort of color in their color. Get rid of that line. Don't want him to really look like a Sonic. Oh, now he looks like a Fox McCloud. How do you draw lemurs again? Oh, good enough. Get the idea from the context. So you're like this. But yeah, just in terms of, I guess, how things are going in general with stuff. Yeah, I've had a lot of kind of big sort of miniature painting commissions. I put up some. There's a whole bunch more now that I might put up at some point. I kind of, they keep coming in, and I'm like, I wish I didn't have them because, yeah, I really want to be, I'd much prefer to be doing kind of comic stuff and other things like that. Which is, but you know, it's fine. It's one of those things like, oh, so much work. Oh, it's such a problem. But you know, it's one of those things. You always want to be doing something else. Grass is always comics always more interesting on the other side or whatever. Jay's wiggling this. I just erased those lines because they were a mistake. But those are the wiggle lines I put in on purpose. U4. Like that. But yeah, I've had a lot of time to do much else really. So I'll talk about sort of like games coming out. Not for me, probably. I'm going to be pretty flat out with stuff. So I do really want to try to get the some good headway in our Shadow Part 2 going on, because there are a bunch of other kind of comic stuff I want to do as well. So the sooner I can finish that, the better. And I do have kind of a little novel as well that I've been working on, and I want to try to have some time to like learn how to make a proper cover for it so that I could put that up somewhere. And yeah, we haven't done too much more, but I'm gonna just jump. Is that what an airport? I think they're just a thing. What? Yeah, I think that's kind of it. Nice, beautiful, terrible tangent between that line and the little thing here. That's good. And then some stuff in the background where things going on. But yeah, I think that's a picture. All right, let's get back into. Oh goodness, nearly up, nearly time. Goodness me. Had one. Okay, right. Yeah, got it. I remember him being way short. Yeah, as you remembered, he was very short. Oh, thanks, thanks, Angel. Water. What are badgers and sloths like in our shadow? Okay, badgers and sloths. And also, I think for the last picture, I'm going to do a dragon-based thing because I have to do that. That's the thing I got to do now. So yeah, if someone's got an idea for a dragon type thing that I can butcher, that would be great. I'll do that. But what are sloths and badgers like? They are two different animals, so I better tackle them one at a time. Do I have time to do another little drawing prompt before the dragon one comes in? I'll just draw a badger. I know. Yeah, badgers in our shadow, they would be, or they'd be definitely around. They are no less. I'd sort of, in my mind, I sort of think of them in terms of like. Okay, this is a badger from memory, by the way. I'm just going to see. We obviously don't have them here or anything remotely. Our badgers are, I guess, if you combined a badger with a Sherman tank and then called it a wombat, that would be kind of like the closest thing we have to that. But yeah, I always like them. They're cool. I like their markings. And of course, I was a big fan of the Animals of Farthingwood back in the day. And then this kind of looks like a lagoon or something at this point. I think they do this. Kind of have maybe a few this. And then this. Or is that too many bits? I don't know. Anyway, that's a badger. But yeah, badgers in our shadow world would definitely be around. In fact, I'm not sure why I haven't done one, and I kind of, now that I think about it, think that maybe I have done one somewhere. if not just like in the background or something like that. But yeah, badgers are cool. There's a lot of cool badger characters in that. Obviously, being around in the early days of the internet with Newgrounds, there's some badger slash mushroom related content that was fairly influential to internet culture. And yeah, they've got a cool design, so they're pretty good. So then and they use their hands for stuff. They dig, and they can. Yeah, there's not much of a stretch. Probably more so than with like a dog. They kind of it's or a fox or whatever. Like they're more like using their paws to do things is even though they both build like earths and stuff. I sort of feel like they use their stuff a bit more. So they're definitely around. Pretty hunchy. This guy was hunching around so much. Now, is the black bit on top or is it over their eyes? It's from memory. I've got to just commit. Got to commit to the bit. I feel like I think it's over their eyes. I'm realizing now there's very little difference in my like Australian mind as to what differentiates a badger and a skunk and a raccoon. They're all long little squat little dog things that have black on them somewhere on their heads. I do know that badgers will go and the black doesn't go all the way. I know it turns into grey. I guess that also happens with raccoons. What I'm saying is every animal is the same animal, unless it's a kangaroo, which is different. But I think this is a badger. And then, yeah. I'm going to put a badger in somewhere. I've decided there's going to be one soon. If I haven't done so already. Yeah. Shark dragon. Okay. Oh, yes. And what I did remind me not to forget the dragon, which I will do now. I have 3 minutes. A shark dragon. All right. This you've just told me a Yu-Gi-Oh monster is what that is. So, okay, a shark. Now, where the shark bit and where the dragon bit go, I guess is the main problem here. I feel like whenever you combine a shark with something, the shark has to be the head, and then the body is what makes it the dragon. So, yes, yes, yes. Mm-hmm. The sharks. Whoops. Like that. Sharks don't have like visible teeth, do they? They're more like they gotta have their mouth open to see their teeth. And then we've got this, and then this is gonna go like that. Got a hole in the fin because reasons. And then really just black eyes. And then we've got some now. I guess this is going to be like a water dragon, so I feel like it's not got enough space. Is what it's not got. Markings. Does it have wings? Is the thing. I feel like it does. Yes. So wings, but these are like for water wings, if you will. That's what you call floaties, right? In the Northern Hemisphere. Membrane. And then I think I nailed this one actually. I think this is actually my best dragon I've ever dropped. So now the other wing can come out this way. That's about to. It's just come out of the water. And the other thing, if you combine something with a shark, it must have the head of a shark, it must have the tail of a shark. That's going to be coming around and be visible. That's not. That is a Jinjo from Banjo-Kazooie. And so that's not what we want. So shark tail is like, a shark tail is like this. Sharks are the best sea creatures, by the way. They're just like a what do you call it? A MiG 262 but an animal. I really wish nature would stop copying all those cool German designs. Anyway, there we go. That's a shark dragon. And that's all the other stuff. And yeah, once again, sorry again for the kind of lack of me having a tablet that works very good. Probably should have used the mouse at this point. But yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for all the stuff. I feel like a little bit of a subdued one, mostly me just trying to handle all the issues that were going on. But yeah, I always love having you guys around. I love drawing your stuff and answering questions. Makes me feel like a real big shot with something that's real. So yeah, that's really cool. Hope the information was interesting or filled in a few gaps or anything like that. Again, yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks so much for supporting me on Patreon. And of course, obviously, if I could just be doing that, that would be me. I'd be done at that point. That's like, yeah, that's cool. Do my Patreon and then do everything for that. Do all the comics into my heart's desire. But yeah, just the fact I can do as much as I do is all thanks to you guys. So that's just absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Please let me know if I've missed out on doing anything for you, like sketch wise or other commission wise. I try to stay on track, but whatever. Anyway, and if anyone else was here after the fact, thanks for watching. I hope it was in something that might help your understanding of my little old worlds. And yeah, if you want to join Patreon, you know how to do that. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to rant on about that too much. But yeah, until next time, hope you guys have a good week or 3 weeks or whatever my schedule is for doing these things, or 4 weeks. And as G said last time, my sign off should be, how do I turn this off? Because that's what I always say. So how do I stop this? Have a good night, and how do I stop this?